In the remote corners of the Americas, under the cloak of darkness, lurks a creature whispered about in fearful tones, the Chupacabra. Half beast, half nightmare, it leaves a trail of drained livestock and unanswered mysteries. For decades, sightings have puzzled scientists, hunters, and locals alike, with its blood-red eyes piercing the night and its eerie breath felt behind your neck. What is this creature? A predator, a parasite, or something far more sinister? Tonight, we journey into the shadows, uncovering chilling encounters, strange disappearances, and the terrifying legend of a creature that may not be from this world. Prepare yourself. Once you hear its story, you may never look at the night the same way again. Chupacabra, the bloodsucker from the shadows, one of the most terrifying legends ever recorded on American soil. Part 1, The Night of the Dead Goats, Puerto Rico, 1995. The night sky was pitch black, moonless, with wind howling through the drooping banana trees like eerie, ghostly arms. On a rocky hillside, at the outskirts of the small town of Canovanas, a farmer named Miguel Torres stood in the middle of his goat pen, or rather, what used to be his goat pen. All 8 of his goats were dead. Each one lay neatly, almost deliberately arranged with a deep, strange puncture wound in the throat. There was no blood, not a puddle, not even a drop. The goat carcasses were dry, as if every last drop of blood had been sucked out. Miguel trembled. Brujeria, witchcraft, he whispered, but deep down he knew this was no human act. A few days earlier, neighbors had claimed they saw a large, 2-legged shadow with blood-red eyes leaping over the back fence of the farm. Everyone had brushed it off as drunken rambling. Until tonight. The next day, rumors spread like wildfire. Local newspapers ran sensational headlines. Blood-sucking monster on the loose. The elders in the area whispered a name long thought forgotten. Chupacabra. No one truly knew what it was, but the name carried death with it. The goat sucker. A few weeks later, hundreds of kilometers away, another 12 goats were found dead under the exact same conditions. This time, it was at the ranch of Luis Rivera, a former soldier who had once fought in Panama. He had heard a strange hissing sound at night, thinking it was just wild dogs, until dawn, when he found his goat pen turned into a bloodless slaughterhouse. He claimed he saw something leaping over the fence. Posture, the creature is in a low, crouched position, as if attacking or feeding on the carcass of an animal, possibly a goat or a small deer. Its posture conveys both a stalking presence and a fierce, predatory instinct. Eyes, extremely large and glowing red, radiating ferocity and a lack of emotion, a feature often associated with alien beings or nocturnal predators. Teeth and mouth. Its sharp, protruding teeth resemble the fangs of a predatory animal. The mouth is slightly open, revealing a grotesque set of fangs poised to bite or already sinking into its prey. Skin, pale gray, rough, and tightly stretched over its body, similar to reptilian skin. There is no visible fur, giving it a cold, unnatural appearance. Body, muscular and well-defined, especially in the arms and legs, indicating exceptional strength. Its 4 limbs are long and end in sharp claws, ideal for hunting and killing prey. Back spines. From the neck down to the back, a A row of sharp, upright spines protrudes, similar to those of a lizard or a prehistoric creature. This is a prominent feature commonly found in traditional depictions of the Chupacabra. Police and local authorities stepped in. They set up barriers, infrared cameras, and traps. The result? Nothing. The cameras captured only a few blurry frames, a dark shape darting past, vanishing into the night like it had never been there at all. A biology research team from a university in San Juan came to investigate. They concluded it was a diseased feral dog, but no one could explain why there was no blood, why the wound was always at the throat, and why all the goats died in perfect silence. No bleating, no signs of a struggle. By October, the attacks suddenly stopped, but the name Chupacabra no longer remained in the shadows. It had made headlines in international news, appeared on the internet, and reached mainland America. But this was only the beginning. A few months later, in Sweetwater, Texas, over 3,000 kilometers from Puerto Rico, the nightmare returned. Part 2. Silence in Sweetwater, Texas, USA. March 1996. The town of Sweetwater was a place with nothing but dry earth, rattlesnakes, and winds carrying dust and sand. The locals were used to harsh weather and old cowboy legends. But what happened that spring cast a shadow of fear over the region for months. It all began at the Andrews family ranch, a vast, desolate plot of land south of town. The owner, Dale Andrews, was a quiet man, living with his wife and 2 sons. One morning, he went out to check on his goats and immediately stepped back, dropping the pistol he always carried at his side. All 27 goats were dead. Exactly like the incidents in Puerto Rico. No blood, no drag marks, no sound. Only deep puncture wounds in the throats. Some goats looked as if their skin had been torn, but there was still no blood, as if death had come from within. Dale told the police that the night before, he heard low growls and the scratching of claws against the barn walls. When he looked out the window, he saw something standing upright, about 1.2 meters tall, with spines along its back and red eyes like headlights. His wife thought he was having nightmares, until the string of livestock deaths spread all over Sweetwater. Cows, sheep, goats, even some dogs in the neighborhood, all died the same way. Local police teamed up with the Dallas Zoo to identify creature tracks, but all DNA samples came back unidentifiable. They found footprints, 3 toes, long claws, arranged for upright walking. A veterinary expert confirmed, not a dog, not a wolf, not any known animal living on this continent. A 10-year-old boy named Jeremy, who lived near the Andrews Ranch, recounted seeing a creature like a hyena, but hopping like a kangaroo, crossing his yard at 3 a.m. He knew nothing about the Andrews case. His story matched the strange details perfectly. Local newspapers began mentioning a name once known only in the Caribbean, Chupacabra. By the end of the month, a man named Marcus Price, living in a trailer on the edge of town, disappeared. Police found bloodstains and claw marks on his metal door. His body was never found. Texas authorities sent a special investigation team, but after a few days, they suddenly withdrew. No explanation was given. Since then, Sweetwater's residents have lived in silence. The ranch was abandoned. Several families moved away. Those who stayed refused to speak of what had happened. A neighbor whispered to a reporter, "I don't know what that thing is, but it's not a creature of God." In the early summer of 1996, a subtle tremor ran through the digital underworld. In those days, the internet remained an unruly frontier, raw, untamed, and brimming with the energy of people searching for answers the mainstream refused to provide. It was in this atmosphere, among believers and skeptics alike, that an electronic message arrived, a disturbance that would ripple outward, creating confusion, curiosity, and for some, a cold rush of fear. Included was a blurry image of a strange creature taken through the glass of a biological isolation cell. The creature had red eyes, long arms with sharp claws, and stood on two legs. The caption beneath the photo sent chill jutes down many spines. Dangerous subject. Diet, live plasma. Biological origin unknown. Moves like a primate. Silent hunting mechanism. Shadow Raven claimed he once worked on a top-secret biological research project at a U.S. military facility in Dugway Proving Ground, Utah, a place nicknamed the Second Area 51. He asserted, Chupacabra is not a legend. It is a hybrid creation, a creature beyond normal biology, possibly the result of genetic experiments involving extraterrestrial DNA. 1 week later, Shadow Raven disappeared from the forum. His account was deleted, emails went unanswered, and all his posts were removed due to legal requests. But some people managed to download the file. One of them was freelance journalist Eleanor Hayes, known for writing about the mysterious and supernatural. She traveled to Utah to investigate. In her final blog post, she wrote, I'm not sure what that creature is, but I saw something moving behind the barbed wire fence under dim floodlights. It wasn't human. It knew I was watching. 1 week later, Eleanor died in a car accident on a deserted highway. Her vehicle plunged off a cliff on a clear day with no signs of sudden braking. Police ruled it loss of control, but her blog followers didn't believe it. At the same time, a biologist named Dr. Peter Lang, who had publicly denied the existence of the Chupacabra, suddenly changed his stance 180 degrees. He quietly began purchasing infrared wave detectors, DNA tracking devices, and frequently visited livestock blood-sucking incident sites. In a leaked recording, Dr. Lang said, "If what I found is true, then this creature did not evolve from Earth. Its bladder structure is unlike any vertebrate." Inside the CHPR alpha file was also a map marking every location linked to Chupacabra incidents, from Puerto Rico, Texas, all the way to New Mexico, Arizona, and ending at an abandoned military radar station in Nevada. Part 4. Radar Station 17, Sounds from Hell, Nevada, on the eastern edge of Area 51, a barren land, deserted with no officially recognized military activity. This place once hosted a military facility called Radar Station 17, built during the Cold War to monitor unidentified flying objects. But it was sealed off in 1982, without explanation or announcement. The name survives only in a few faded archive documents. In August 1997, 3 amateur explorers, including a sound engineer named Carlos Medina, decided to investigate Radar Station 17 after detecting strange audio signals at night, captured by a long-range radio receiver. Carlos described, "The sound was like metallic screeching, mixed with moaning, repeating in cycles, only at 3 a.m., almost at frequencies beyond normal human hearing." They arrived on August the 14th. A video of their journey, partially leaked later on the dark web, showed a rusty concrete building, welded iron doors, and a faded warning sign reading, "No entry, Level 5 biological hazard. Inside was a damp, moss-covered maze of corridors, but oddly, the electrical system was still running. Corridor lights flickered. Some cameras were still rolling, but rotated slowly, as if watching. They found a staircase leading down to the third basement, marked "No Access." As soon as they reached the bottom, the sound began. Not through machines, but audible to the naked ear. All three panicked. One vomited on the spot. Carlos trembled, saying, "It sounded like a dying person, but not human." They found a metal door at the corridor's end, locked with an ancient code panel. But strangely, the door suddenly opened, as if someone was waiting. Inside was a laboratory. Everything was dusty, except a glass chamber in the center of the room. And beside that glass chamber was a corpse. Or rather, not a complete corpse. The creature looked like it had been detached from something larger. Spines along its back, long claws, pale bluish-purple skin, hollow eye sockets that still seemed to stare. Its body was shriveled like a mummy, but showed no decay. Carlos gasped. "My God, it looks exactly like the descriptions of Chupacabra." The moment their flashlights shone on the body, the screeching sound skyrocketed. Then all power in the facility suddenly shut down. The video ended there. No one knows what happened next. 3 weeks later, the group's vehicle was found outside the station. Doors wide open, belongings scattered. But there was no trace of the explorers. Inside the vehicle was a recorder. Playback revealed only static and a 2-second whisper, analyzed by an acoustics expert as "I am hungry." Authorities subsequently sealed off the area, but locals insist the screeching sounds continue every night. Part 5. Blood Lake, the terrifying hunt in southern Arizona. October 2002, Sierra del Sur, a vast wildlife reserve in its southern Arizona near the Mexican border, famous for its stunning landscapes, red rock formations, and crystal-clear streams. But suddenly the area was closed off by wildlife authorities without any explanation. At the same time, 3 professional hunters, Donnie, Caleb, and Marco, decided to camp inside the restricted zone to hunt a rare species of antelope rumored to still roam near a small lake called Laguna Roja, the Red Lake. But when they arrived, the lake was no longer blue. The water had turned a deep blood-red color, but there was no foul smell, no animal carcasses, and no signs of algae or minerals that could cause such discoloration. The lake's surface was so still, it reflected every breath. Marco was the first to notice something was wrong when he found the carcass of a deer completely drained of blood, with no large wounds, only 2 small puncture marks at the back of its neck. Donnie sneered. "Sounds like one of those crazy Chupacabra stories, huh?" Caleb didn't laugh. That night, they pitched their tents near the forest's edge. Around 2 a.m., a chilling howl echoed from the lake, unlike any known animal. Marco grabbed his flashlight and went to investigate. His GoPro chest camera kept recording everything. 03:12 a.m., the last footage. Marco shone his light over the lake surface. Nothing. Then, in that moment, the beam swept across a shadow standing on the water without creating ripples. A creature over 6 feet tall, gaunt, skin stretched tight over bones, eyes glowing red like fire, reflecting the light. It stood upright, motionless. Marco screamed and ran backward, but when he turned the light back, the creature had vanished. No footprints, no water disturbance. The camera dropped to the ground capturing the sounds of a struggle, claws scratching fabric, then silence. The next morning, Donnie and Caleb found Marco's shoes hanging on a 10-foot tree branch, 200 meters from the lake's shore. Below, no blood, but the ground was deeply indented, as if something very heavy had stood there overnight. They panicked and fled, but on the way out of the reserve, Caleb was pulled from the vehicle while stopping to check a map. Donnie recalled, "I saw Caleb being dragged into the bushes, like it wasn't an animal, but something intelligent. It knew how to pick the weakest. Donnie escaped by luck, but his spirit was completely broken. In his only interview, he repeated over and over, 'It's not an animal. It waited for us.'" Weeks later, rangers conducted a search but found no trace of Caleb or Marco. However, Laguna Roja suddenly returned to its normal blue color as if nothing had happened. A hidden thermal sensor camera was installed near the lake after the incident. The footage showed that every night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., a tall, humanoid heat signature would emerge from the lake, stand still for 12 minutes, then disappear beneath the water. Deep within the emerald shadows of Puerto Rico's forests rests the small, weather-worn village of Canovanas. Nestled between dense, tangled trees and the thrum of nocturnal insects, this place rarely sees anything out of the ordinary. Life here, in March of 1995, moved at the measured rhythm of the land. Sunup brought chores, chickens, the goat pens. Nightfall, a hush interrupted only by distant animal calls and the sighing of leaves in the humid breeze. But on one peculiar night, events unfolded in Canovanas that would shatter the sleepy calm, sending ripples not just across the island, but eventually the world. 8 goats, healthy and hale at dusk, were discovered in the morning, lying motionless in their fenced pen, exactly as they had lain before. Their bodies bore no signs of struggle, their wounds paradoxically subtle. 2 deep punctures at the base of every neck, almost surgically precise. Each of them had been drained of every drop of blood. Fear seized the village like a fever. Murmurs of a strange beast, one that drinks blood, spread among the farmers and their children with the speed of wildfire, their voices trembling as they recounted what little evidence they saw. Yet, for the Alvarez family, the horror of this event was far more than rumor. Marta Alvarez was among the first to find the goat carcasses at dawn's early light, but it was her son, Emiliano, only 9 years old, whose eyes held the true terror of that night. For 3 years after, Emiliano's world was silent. He stopped speaking, recoiling from every shadow, refusing even to sleep without a light and his mother's comfort. At night, sometimes he would wake, screaming and clutch at the back of his neck, wailing, "It was standing right behind me." Adults whispered that the boy had witnessed too much. Others believed he had simply imagined the thing, but their voices always dropped when they passed the Alvarez home. In time, Canovanas returned to a wary normalcy, but Emiliano carried his secret deep inside. His experience became nothing more than hearsay, faded and disbelieved, until 2023, nearly 3 decades later. By then, Emiliano, now a grown man living quietly in San Juan, had become something of a recluse. He kept away from crowds, avoided interviews, until the Shadow Archive, a discreet, global network dedicated to gathering supernatural testimony, managed to convince him to share his memory in confidence. The resulting recording, 17 minutes long, has since become one of the rarest and most unsettling first-hand accounts of the Chupacabra. Emiliano's voice, strained and trembling, begins softly, as if the act of remembering still summons the terror of the past. That night, I woke up because I heard something like a moan, but deep, very deep, like it was echoing from underground. He describes tiptoeing out into the balmy air, barefoot, each blade of grass damp beneath his feet. The moon was full and bright, lighting the world in shadowless clarity. At the edge of the yard, housed within a simple wire mesh, were the goats. The world was uncannily still, the usual clatter of insects silenced, as if holding its collective breath. Then he saw it. It didn't walk. It slithered, as if not touching the ground, but stood on two legs. He remembers the creature's tongue, impossibly long, sliding across its chest, its hands ending not in fingers, but in claws served like ancient sickles. Though he was but a child, Emiliano noticed the creature's gaze. Its eyes were red, but not simply colored so. They changed shape with every blink. Sometimes they were round, then suddenly flat. In the next instant, blinking with an unsettling, human-like intimacy. It was licking the goat's carcass, as if sensing the remaining blood. Terror robbed Emiliano of movement, rooting him to the spot. He tried to scream, but his throat locked tight. The creature turned, not to look, but as if it somehow sensed his presence without eyes. As if it smelled my gaze. It moved faster than logic, dissolving into the darkness in a circular blur, not flying, nor running, but simply ceasing to be seen. The silence was overwhelming then. In a split second, Emiliano rushed toward the safety of his home. But as he crossed the threshold inside, a chill, far colder than the night, pressed against the skin of his neck. He froze. A silent, musty breath played across the hair behind his ear, each slow exhalation heavy with the scent of rot and earth. I didn't look back. I knew if I did, I wouldn't be human anymore. After that night, words left Emiliano. His childhood slipped by in a haze of therapy sessions and whispered diagnoses. He was, at one time, described by psychiatrists as having dissociative disorder. But there was a mystery nobody could explain. Every single drawing Emiliano made of the Chupacabra in those silent years, scribbled timidly on lined school paper, matched in uncanny detail the eyewitness accounts that would emerge years later, from Nevada to Arizona to deep within Mexico. All these drawings, made before the beast became a worldwide legend, carried the same horrifying features. In the final minutes of the 2023 interview, Emiliano barely whispered, voice ragged with resignation. I don't think it's a monster. I think it was sent, not from nature, but from somewhere farther away. It came to collect something, and the goats were just the easiest part to find. Then, quite suddenly, the session ended in a way that no one who heard it would ever forget. Emiliano's speech faltered. His eyes rolled back, and for several endless seconds, there was nothing but static. In the background of the recording, a noise emerged, a low, steady, rhythmic hiss, unmistakable to any who had read the old reports describing the creature's breath. No one else was present in that moment, and yet those who listened to the audio insisted it was as if something stood right behind the microphone, sighing patiently, waiting for its nexus moment of collection. Searches for Emiliano began the following week. Despite the locked doors and the windows, his San Juan apartment was empty. The hallway cameras showed nothing. No one coming or going, no indication of any visitor, human or otherwise. To this day, the fate of Emiliano Alvarez remains a mystery, and the recording of his memory endures as a chilling reminder. In the deep forests, in the silent dark, there are shadows whose breath you may feel, but whose presence you must never, ever turn to see. Part 7. The Doomsday Night. The Utah Secret Files. December 2017, in a leaked internal memo from the United States Department of Defense, the phrase, Class X-41A creature variant, currently moving toward Utah, stunned military analysts. According to the memo, a top-secret operation named Operation Night Silence was urgently deployed in a remote desert area near Skinwalker Ranch, Utah, a place notorious for unexplained supernatural phenomena. Operation Silence, in the classified memo, later leaked on the deep web, the military described a creature, form consistent with civilian reports of the Chupacabra. However, this new variant possesses the ability to communicate via sonic waves, navigate in complete darkness, and biologically regenerate when injured. A Special Forces team of 16 members, equipped with thermal imaging devices, electromagnetic weapons, and high-grade biological containment cages, was deployed to the target zone, the cracked, rocky lands around White Canyon. Objective: capture or neutralize the X-41A species creature within 48 hours. The call from the Earth's core from day one. Recording devices in the camp continuously picked up a hissing sound like shattering glass, but the source was never identified. After the second night, a team member named Private Jules Moran disappeared from the tent. GPS tracking showed she was stationary at a depth of 17 meters underground, directly beneath the camp. The team dug down, but found no caves, no fissures, and no traces except a clawed, three-toed footprint over 20 centimeters long, imprinted in the rock. By the third night, all communication devices were completely jammed. Every radio signal echoed on the same frequency. They don't suck blood, they reclaim. They take back what was once theirs, the one who is no longer alone. Drones scanning the area recorded 5 entities, their exact shapes obscured by a distorting electromagnetic field, but all shared the same body temperature as the creatures described in Chupacabra reports from 1995 to 2009. At 3:33 a.m., coinciding with all previously reported mysterious attacks, the Special Forces ceased all transmissions. The last drone image sent back showed a dead field where every wild animal within a 2-kilometer radius lay motionless, blood coagulated like glue without a single wound. In the center stood a faint blue column of light, over 10 meters tall, emitting a sound like the wind. Crying. The final file. 7 days later, all communication devices were automatically recovered at a nearby military station, with only one video found. In it, the commander, Captain Helms, sat inside a silver tent, bruised, blood streaming from his ears and eyes, speaking into the camera. I was wrong. This is not a creature, this is a signal. It's calling others like it. We've disturbed a hive beyond space. If anyone finds this tape, stay away from places where the blood has been drained, not to avoid it, but because those places have been marked, and it will come back, not alone. The final silence. Since that operation, all information related to the Chupacabra, the X-41A creature, and Operation Night Silence has been wiped from public systems. However, reports of mass livestock blood loss have increased in recent years in Peru, Bolivia, and Myanmar, places that had no previous Chupacabra sightings. The only common factor, all incidents occurred exactly at 03:33 a.m. Summary of the Chupacabra Legend series. The Chupacabra is not simply a wild creature. It is the first unit in a system that is actively reclaiming a biological form from Earth. Blood is not food. It is biological data. The missing people, the breath behind your neck, the blood lake changing color, these are only the first cracks. If you hear something at 3:33 a.m., do not turn around, because it is not coming to kill you. It comes because it thinks you were once a part of it.